So this is about the study I told you about my work. Walls and Koopmans, 1992, showed that when different nutrients were infused intravenously, the infusions of one thing reduced food intake of the rats the most. Was it glucose, lipids, amino acids, IV diet, or saline? Saline is actually a placebo, so that didn't do anything. The IV diet was a mixture of all three nutrients, glucose and lipids and amino acid, at the same proportion they were in the diet. And these are the individual components, glucose, lipids, and amino acids. Can you remember which one had the biggest calorie for calorie suppression of food intake?
Is it lipids?
No. Lipids did the poorest. They got about 40% for every calorie of lipid they got about 4/10 of a calorie suppression in food intake. When I gave them glucose, it was about 65%. When I gave them amino acids, they suppressed their food intake almost perfectly. So every 10 kilocalories of amino acids produced a 10 kilocalorie reduction in food intake. Gave them 20, they reduced their food intake by 20. So amino acids were best, at least intravenously. And that takes a lot of things out of the equation. That takes, the oral and gastrointestinal cues away in terms of how the animals are seeing what's going into their body, at least before they eat. They already have stimulation of their post ingestive sites like the liver, the brain, and any body sensors, but their gut wasn't getting anything new, and their mouth wasn't getting anything until they actually ate. So I didn't tell you all of the story there, but it's an interesting story. We were actually trying to eliminate oral and or minimize oral and gut cues and find out how much of the absorbed or circulating nutrient added up to caloric intake. So, number 31, according to the positive incentive theory, and this is a totally different idea of control of food intake, the main cause of hunger in food replete, that means you've got excess food conditions. The main cause of hunger in basically lots of food availability and not excessive depletion. Is it a shortage of calories in the body? Presence of food or anticipation of its imminent availability? Deviation from an energy set point? Deviation from a positive incentive set point? Or high levels of insulin? I might say D, deviation from positive incentive set point, but what would cause that in terms of a positive incentive theory? The correct answer is actually B, the presence of food or the anticipation. This is positive incentive, this is excitation of, you want to talk about drives and incentives and that sort of thing. Then the main cause of hunger would be smelling or anticipating food. So 32, according to our textbook, many people who live in modern industrialized societies have difficulty eating a diet with enough vitamins and minerals because during evolution they lost their ability to associate taste with outcome. Conditioned taste aversions inevitably override the effects of positive learning. They eat too many different flavors each day for their systems to learn the relation between the flavor of food and its effects. Or humans have lost the ability to taste vitamins and minerals, or taste is overpowered by olfaction. Well, some of these are partially true, but and again, you have to go for the most true or the most likely situation or circumstance, and it's actually C here. You probably noticed that often I have questions with a fairly long answer. Often it's the longest answer is the correct one, but don't count it. And the correct answer is they eat too many different flavors each day. I mean, you eat cucumbers all day long and you have a sore belly from eating cucumbers, you probably say, oh, cucumbers give me a sore belly. But if you're eating cucumbers and dressing and radishes and onions and beans and pork chops and everything else, pretty tough to know which one of those flavors is doing anything to learn the relationship between the flavor of the food and its effects. So that's the correct answer. Does that make sense? Some of these are fairly straightforward, but you know, you have to think about it. Actually, if you read the textbook outlines these things in a pretty straightforward manner, and that's why I chose this textbook, because I think it's the very best textbook available in behavioral neuroscience, at least at your level. And at least from student feedback, I hear that most students read it. Do you all read your textbook? It's good, isn't it? It's really a good textbook, I think. Anybody disagree? You wouldn't tell me anyway, right? I tell Dr. Fennell. And he's getting even better. The next version is extraordinary. I've seen it already. So, Hunger. What's that?
Do you know him personally?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. He's a cool guy. He's a little older than me. He's like my older brother.
Oh.
Yeah. He's skinnier than me. But he drinks beer too. Just not as much as me, I guess. I think he works out pretty well. I actually tried to visit him this summer. I was in Vancouver, and he was on vacation. I would have brought you a picture of me and Dr. Fennell, but he wasn't available. So, okay. Hunger and eating can be induced in satiated subjects by decreasing blood glucose levels with large injections of insulin. That's true. However, such large decreases aren't very normal. And they rarely, if ever, occur in healthy animals with continuous access to food. And that's the correct answer. They don't occur naturally, about 3 times a day. And they occur naturally in very, very small amounts in most mammals, but in some cases, animals will eat without any decrease in blood insulin at all, or blood glucose at all. So these others are just stupid answers. But the correct answer is rarely, if ever, occur in healthy animals with continuous access to food. So by large bilateral lesions of the lateral hypothalamus produce aphasia, adipsia, hyperphagia, aphagia and adipsia, or adipsia and hyperphagia. So you guys remember lateral hypothalamus? So this is the rat. Brain here, hypothalamus down here, lateral area out here, ventromedial area here. The image there. If we lesion or damage this part, do you remember what happened to the animal? Yes. Sure. No, it's aphasia. And along with aphasia, that aphasia means no eating. Along with aphasia, you also get the cessation of drinking called adipsia. So A and B are the correct answers. So in fact, D is the right answer. So LH lesions don't just produce aphasia, they also produce adipsia. So if you chose one of those, you're only partially correct. D is the correct answer. So lesioning, if you damage this area, that's what causes